heard from my colleague Greg Worth about astronomy. Well, today I'm going to try to give you a sense about the universe in 15 minutes. So when we think about the word universe, we think about stars, planets, lots of things, nebulas colliding, or galaxies colliding. We think about all kinds of great things. And some of us would think about Star Wars or Star Trek, in terms of the universe. But the universe is truly vast. It's a very large place. The definition of universe, as some of you may know, is that all matter and space considered as a whole, the cosmos. As someone who works in astronomy, I know that it's truly vast. But we talked about the observable universe, because the observable universe is what we can see. There's still so much we can't see. And I think back about the first time I heard the word universe. And the first time I heard about the universe was from my mother. She was scolding me for not doing something. And she said, if you don't do this right, or you don't do as I say, the whole universe is going to come to an end. She had no idea about what the stars are, about planets or nebula, but that word was used a lot in those days by people who was trying to dramatize something. Something big was going to happen. And fortunately for us, I did what she said, and here we are. The universe did not come to an end, so that was a good thing. By the way, some of you may wonder if that's my mom. I'm not adopted, but it was very hard to find a tiger mom image. The one in the bottom right does look like me, and I ate a lot of watermelon as a kid. But she was right about one thing. Now, she was right that the world will come to an end soon. And it's not because I didn't do my laundry or fold it correctly, it's because something is going to hit us one day. But today we know a lot more about our universe. We know we're here on this great planet, this peaceful planet for most of the time. It's all 7 billion of us. Some of us are fortunate to live in this great island, the big island. And, I think about this planet, how it has sustained so much of us. But as we get further out, we know that the planet is just part of other planets in our solar system. And we have a sun that always warms us every day. And as we go further out, we're in a group of suns, in our solar neighborhood. And as we go even further out, we're part of the Milky Way galaxy. This Milky Way galaxy is quite large. It's about 100,000 light years across. There we are, in the middle, in that red dot there. And there's 400 billion stars in this Milky Way galaxy. As we venture out further, there's a local galactic group that we're in. It's quite big. I think you get the point. As we go further and further out, we get to superclusters, to where we are today, where we think we know what the observable universe is. Now, this universe is observable because there's over 90% of it we don't see. We only see a very tiny part of it. And just here's another data for you to think about. NASA recently started looking at all parts of the sky. No matter where we're looking at, we just see galaxies, galaxies upon galaxies. And each one of those galaxies have tons of stars in it. If you were to count up every single grain of sand on our planet, it would not equal the amount of stars out there. There's more stars out there than there are grains of sand on this planet. Just imagine that. We now know, at least I hope we know, the universe is quite big. We think about the universe as vast. But personally for me, the universe is also about time. It's about space and time. And I'm not talking about relativity. Einstein got a lock on that. I'm just saying the universe is just old. We know it's approximately 13.7 billion years old. Now, that's not as big as our national budget deficit, but, it's quite big there. We do, it's quite old from a universe standpoint. Now, how do we know that it's 13.7 billion years? Well, we use telescopes on this island, a lot of telescopes on Mount Gary, great telescopes to look at and understand where we are. Galileo started in the 1500s, started looking at the stars and trying to understand our place in this great universe. And here we are today. The telescopes have been advancing with new techniques and helping us to understand the universe. Now, Keck, for instance, have one great technology. We started using segmented mirrors. And by using segmented mirrors, we can do a bigger and bigger telescope. But today I want to give you an idea about another technique we use at Keck. Before I get into that, let me tell you something about our atmosphere. We live in this Earth, we have an atmosphere, it's great. It gives us air, protects us. But guess what? For astronomers, it causes to twinkle in the sky. Every night, some of us go outside and say, wow, look at how great the sky is. It's just twinkling stars, beautiful. But for astronomers, we can't see that. We just see fuzziness when we look at the sky. We see the same effect when we look on a hot road every day. We see the scintillation across a hot road. We can't see exactly what's behind it because we're blurred by this turbulence. In a pool of water, we can't see the bottom of the pool because this constant wave of water. The same thing is happening in our atmosphere. Oh, sorry. But one thing I try to do is, when we think about how do we get through this turbulence, we get through this turbulence by having a very thin mirror. If you think about it, this turbulence causes a star like a point source to become a blob. That blob, we don't see a nice point source. And what we try to do is we use a mirror, a very thin mirror that can bend hundreds and even thousands of times a second to untwinkle the star. But we need a source. We need a source in the sky like a star we can use to know how to bend that mirror. And sometimes we're fortunate, we have a star in the sky we can use to bend the mirror. Sometimes we can't. So that's why we use laser guide star. So this is a video that shows how laser guide star works. So what happened is, we now know there's a layer of sodium, table salt, around 90 kilometers above us. If we hit a laser near the object we want to look at and study and resonate those atoms, we can light it up. It's no different than what's happening in your fluorescent lighting that you turn on the switch every day. You take advantage of that. So when we resonate these atoms, it creates an artificial star. And that light from the star and the object we want to look at comes back down through our telescopes. And when it comes back down to our telescope, this light goes into our adaptive optic system. It's really true. There's some table salt up there you can resonate and light it up. When it gets down to our telescope and our adaptive optic system, that light is split up. Part of that light goes into a camera, just like how your phone cameras are, except we have much larger camera, much larger optics. But when we look at that light from a camera, we see a blob. We don't see a nice point source, and it's constantly moving. It's always moving, and the only way we can do that is we use adaptive optics to correct for it. And if you think of light, it comes in packets, and those packets are disturbed by this turbulence and this twists and bends that light. But if we were able to sense that light by using adaptive optic system and close the loop, and what I mean by it is we do the inverse of how that light's bending. Sort of like in noise cancellation. You guys all have noise cancellation headphones. We do the opposite, correct for that bending with this mirror, and voila. What we do is we have flat wavefronts that goes into our camera now, and instead of looking at it constantly moving, we see a sharp point source. And this is how we're able to study these stars and untwinkle the star. Okay? So, untwinkling is a very part of all of our telescope nowadays. Now, what does it look like in this guide star? Here's a picture of what it looks like from the side. You can actually see the laser going up. You can see the scatter from this light as it goes up in the lower atmosphere. In the upper atmosphere, you don't see it because there's no particles up there. But again, as it hits the sodium layer, you see this resonate. You see the stars, you see the atoms get excited, and you see this glow. Now you see it as a cylinder here because you're looking off in the sky, on the side. So what does AO do for us? AO can help us look at planets like Neptune. I mean, Neptune on the left without adaptive optics, it looks like a blob. You don't really see the clarity. But when you turn it on, you can see the weather. You can tell what the weather is like on Neptune today. And you can do it all from Earth. You don't have to fly any spacecraft out there. Another area is we can look at Jupiter. By having telescopes on Earth, we can fit the telescope with different kinds of camera. And when I mean different kinds of cameras, different wavelengths. You know, you can look at an invisible wavelength, but it doesn't tell you a lot. By doing different wavelengths and combining them, you can really see what other things are happening on that planet. And you can do it without all flying a very expensive long mission there. You can do it all right now on Earth. So here's a video of one of the Galilean moons. It's the fourth largest moon in our solar system. And what you notice on the bottom right picture is a visible image of this moon. However, by using adaptive optics and using different cameras, we're able to see something special about this moon. There's 400 active volcanoes on this moon. And you wouldn't have known that if you just took a visible image of that. And with AO, we can see the preciseness that we can to know there's active volcanoes, 400 active volcanoes, just like how we have here in Hawaii. Another area that's benefited from adaptive optics is the study of the center of our galaxy. Andrea Ghez and her team at UCLA has been looking at this area for quite a long time. And with adaptive optics, she's able to tell with more preciseness how things are moving around this area. And she's been mapping how these objects have been moving in orbiting in this particular area. And to understand how something can be moving so fast and orbiting this area, we now expect there's a supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way in our own galaxy. And this led to this constantly, there's also other supermassive black hole in other parts of the galaxy. This work has taken a long time, of course, before adaptive optics was started. But with adaptive optics, she's been able to get a lot more orbits, so we know there's something very big. In fact, we're fortunate to capture something falling into the black hole. We see an object in a matter of 20 minutes where something fell into the black hole. It was emitting gas and jets out of the black hole. So this is a very popular technique now. All of the telescopes all the large telescope Mauna Kea is using it. Here in this picture. The Milky Way is very popular. Everybody wants to understand what's happening in the middle of our galaxy. And this is going to be the building blocks of larger telescopes in the future. Larger and larger telescopes will require adaptive optics to really get the clarity they need. Now, I've been talking about astronomy, but adaptive optics can also be used in other fields. For example, like vision science. By using a laser beacon aimed through your eye, you're able to get clarity by seeing your rods and cones, by taking image of your rods and cones, to get that clarity that they want to see behind your eye. Imagine you go to the optometrist, and I hate this myself, they ask you, is this better, is this better? I'd like to go one day where you just go look at an instrument and voila, it tells you everything about your eye by looking how light is bending in your eye and get that correction. It's also done in vivo, in biology. They're taking images, high resolution images, down to the molecular level by using adaptive optics. In other areas such as communications, we're able to send a laser, communicate with something far away through the atmosphere by at the other end or even in the beginning end by shaping that laser beam and correcting for turbulence. In the machining industry, you can imagine you can use adaptive optics to shape your laser for metal cutting so you have less waste and better quality cuttings. Now, I always think about what's going to happen in the future. Some of you out there may have Google Glass on, I don't know. But imagine you had adaptive optics in your Google Glass. Or more so, you could even have adaptive optics implanted in your eye. I often think about Steve Austin. Steve Austin was a show, I guess in the 70s. And he had this special ability with his eye and bionics. But even he didn't have adaptive optics. But I can imagine one day we will have the bionic man with supervision with adaptive optics. But he's not going to be 6 million, he'll probably be 16 million instead. So today I hope I give you a sense of what the universe is like, in terms of how big it is. But I also want you to think about how old the universe is in terms of time. The universe is 13.7 billion years, as I said. In that time, a lot of things have happened. We think about how the solar system was formed 4.6 billion years ago, all the way up to our present, the Crusades, happening 1,000 years ago, and where we are today. If you think about it, we always think about time in terms of our relevance. In the last 50 years I've been around, I think about what are the great things, the man on the moon, Apple computers, my favorite album, Michael Jackson's Thriller, was number one. It's still vinyl, of course, at that time, but it was still number one. I think about how DOS ended and Google started. 10 years ago, my daughter was born, and this empire called Facebook started. But we always think about what's relevant to us in terms of time. And if you think about it, this is actually a very special gift each one of us has been given in terms of the overall universe. And this time of 100 years, just 0.0000073% of the life of the universe. Each one of us has been given this special gift. And this gift, we should all use it wisely. We're able to do what we want, share what we want, and how we treat one another. I have infinite choices of what I want to do with my slice of time. And, for me, for the last 20 years, I spent my slice working in advancing the field of astronomy. and having a lot of fun doing it. And I think this is a really special gift each one of us have. And what you can do with your slice, is spend it wisely. Spend it that's worthy of your time. And thank you very much for sharing your slice with me today.